Well, good afternoon. We're all members of the Energy and Commerce Committee, and we're here today because HHS Secretary Becerra has failed to follow the Constitution and the law. There's been a complete breakdown of accountability at the agency that has lost the trust of the American people, especially during COVID-19. 14 NIH officials, including Dr. Fauci, held unlawful positions and exercised authority that they didn't have, which included approving $26 billion in grants. This is unprecedented, and it calls into question the validity of every decision that these officials have made since December 2021 to June 2023, including Dr. Fauci's awarding a new grant to EcoHealth Alliance, but what is even more egregious has been Health and Human Services cover-up. For more than a year, the administration has misled our committee throughout this investigation, and our question has been a pretty simple one. Can you show us the documents that Secretary Becerra followed the Constitution and the law in reappointing these 14 senior officials who exercised immense power and authority? The question, can you show us the documents? And we're still waiting. There needs to be accountability. No one is above the law. Americans need to know that their tax dollars are being spent responsibly, effectively, and lawfully, and that the people making these decisions are lawfully authorized to make them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chairman of the Oversight and Investigations Subcommittee, Morgan Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I adopt all the things that Chairwoman Rogers just said. But let me say this. This is very frustrating. It is typical of the Biden administration not to follow the rules, not to pay attention to the law. This law was put in as a good governance section. The reappointment of these agency heads was put in as a good government section of 21st Century Cures. And the idea was, let's take a look at various bureaucrats and make sure that they're being reappointed and not reappointed as a matter of course and not reappointed by somebody below the secretary, but reappointed by the secretary. And he didn't do it. And we didn't see any evidence of it, so we wrote a letter 16 months ago and said, hey, what's going on? These people don't appear to have been reappointed. And they've basically played a shell game since then until a couple of weeks ago saying, oh, yeah, it's all right, everything's okay, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, it's all fine. And then suddenly, eventually they must have gotten around to realizing they were in violation of the law, and so they tried to do it retroactively. But everything, as the chairwoman said, from the end of December of 2021 until about 2 weeks ago is now called into question. Every programmatic decision, every policy decision, and every grant award has question marks around it now, and I suspect the American taxpayers are going to pay millions of dollars defending lawsuits from various groups and various organizations that think they were either done wrong or they didn't like the policies that came out during that time period, because now it's clear that the administration and Secretary Becerra did not follow the clear meaning, the clear wording of the law. And unfortunately, this administration continues to do that, and it needs to stop. And that's part of why we have Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee, so we can find out what's going wrong and try to get it fixed and try to make sure this doesn't happen again. And that's why getting the word out so that the administration knows this is not the way to run the shop. And we got to get it right.
What kind of a world do we live in when you can work for the government for a year and a half illegally and spend $26 billion of taxpayer money that you have no right to? And do we honestly think that anything's going to happen? Well, it might. They seem pretty pissed.